What's up, everybody? I was asked plenty of times now on how to translate your VRChat model into a Warudo compatible character model. And I'm gonna have a couple steps to make this a lot easier and way more simplified than what current tutorials out there have. By the end of this, you're going to essentially have a model that you're able to export and re-import and then update it whenever you want without having to go through the hubbubaloo of the character model setup within the Warudo SDK. Anyways, we're going to start with picking what model we want to translate. I'm going to pick one of my most favorite and most popular models, being Okami. We're gonna open up her Unity file and get into it real quick. Now that we have our project opened, this is where we kind of have to like simplify our export. And this is just to make the import into Warudo a little easier. There's going to be a lot of assets that don't work with Warudo. So for instance, if you're using things like VRC Fury, if you're using modular avatar, this is not going to be a tutorial that features how to translate those things into Warudo. We are going to basically start from scratch, and anything that you might want to incorporate that's from those animations or those assets that you were using, you might be able to do within the blueprint system of Warudo. By the way, if it's not obvious, you should create a duplicate of this and have a backup so you don't mess up your model at all. For now though, we're going to simplify this. We're gonna take add-ons that I have, the VRC Fury face tracking. We're gonna delete all of my fizz bones. We're gonna take off any of the potential additional assets here, like SPS or anything that's attached via VRC Furies, like armature connector or anything. This is assuming that your model is also kind of like a single FPX. And yeah, this is also including the descriptor. So remove the descriptor, and I'm going to remove, this is all my VRC Fury plugins on this model. So I'm just removing everything. Now that we have our cleaned up FBX, what we're going to do is we're gonna drag it. So take from your hierarchy into your project folder and create a prefab. So here you see I have this little prefab file now. And what we're going to do is right click and export package. Once we export the package, it's gonna do like a quick little pack of it with all the assets that we need for it. And we're going to export it to our desktop, right? I'm just gonna call this Okami VRC. And there we go. Now that that is exported, you can see we have it here on our desktop now. We can go in to Unity Hub, and we're going to need to get a new install because Warudo uses a different version of Unity. So we're going to need to install the 2021.3.18 F1 version of Unity. If we do this, you can find the archive here, and you can go to 2021, and we can find 0.318F. And essentially, you can get this here and hit install. It'll install it into your Unity Hub, and that's it. So now that you have that, you can go into the Warudo SDK. On this page here, this is at docs.warudo.app. You will be able to find a specific folder that can be downloaded here. So this is a zip file that's just called Warudo SDK 0.12.0 mod project. You download this file here and you extract it to where you want your project file to be located. So here we have the SDK and we created our Warudo tutorial folder here. So this is for you guys. This is where we're gonna be. This is where our install is going to be. So now what we can do is in Unity Hub, we can hit add project from disk, and we can go to our desktop and find the Warudo tutorial folder, so where our Warudo project is, and we're going to open this. You can see it adds into here, and you should be able to access this now. Now that we have our Unity project open, there's going to be a couple things that we need. First off, whatever your character was designed with in terms of shaders, you'll want to import here. So at the moment, Okami is made with Poiyomi. So I'm gonna take Poiyomi, and I'm going to import it into my project folder. So after your Poiyomi has been installed, there's going to be a couple other Unity packages that we can put into here. Since Warudo doesn't directly support Fizzbones, you can use either dynamic bones or the one that I often suggest to people, which will take a little bit of time to learn, but it should be easy enough, is MagicaCloth. So we're gonna purchase MagicaCloth from the Unity Asset Store, and then once that is purchased, you'll be able to go down to your package manager within Unity, and you'll be able to find your purchased installs. And I have MagicaCloth here, so we'll import it. So the last import that we're going to need is probably going to be essentially what makes this entire setup so incredibly easy. And that is Denormalize Avatar Exporter. This is a plugin by Hi that essentially will make your life so much easier so that you do not need to use Warudo's setup character step, okay? So you can find Denormalize Avatar Exporter on GitHub, and once we have that downloaded, we can take it and install this into our project. Now that Denormalize has been imported, we can import Okami. Now that our model has been imported, we can go and grab and import the Okami prefab that we had created earlier. As you can see here, our model is now in the scene. Oh, I will say, ignore this broken script here. This was the blueprint ID. I totally forgot to remove that from the export. But if you have anything like that, you can just remove it here. Now that we have Okami exported, I'm gonna show you guys how to set up the character so that you can export it in the easiest way imaginable. Because now that the model is done, we will need to go up here to Warudo and hit New Mod. Here, we're going to call this Okami Warudo. So this is just, you know, I know that it's Okami for Warudo. And after this, we're going to click on our main model, and you'll see here, you have your armature, you have your, you know, wherever your mesh is going to be. Over here on the right-hand side, underneath your animator, on the root of your character, we can add a component. Here, we're going to add the Denormalize Avatar Exporter. And now that that's on here, we can take Okami and drag it in to the avatar root. Now, normally, this is where a lot of people get like a little lost because setting up a character file can potentially twist and rotate bones in a weird way that you don't really understand. That's the normalization process. And what Denormalize does is it allows you to essentially set up your avatar just like you would for VRChat without making like a compressed version of it as a character model. You might be thinking, what more do we need to make this Warudo compatible? And all you need to do now is hit Build Warudo Mod. We're gonna save this. And now it'll build the character mod. Okay, and there you go. You now have Okami for Warudo. You can take this character file here, and you can take this and throw it into your Warudo character folder and load it up. And that's it. So if you want to do anything like physics, what we're going to want to do is add MagicaCloth. So I created an empty here with another empty underneath of it called hair. In here, we're going to add a component, and you're going to want to scroll down through your components after looking for Magica, and you're going to want to select the colored options. The above options are essentially Warudo's conversion of such, so it can read it, but it's not like the, you know, final version of it. So you'd want to go down here to these little colored options. We're going to add MagicaCloth. Now, this is where it gets a little confusing if you've never worked with MagicaCloth before, but essentially you have 3 cloth types: mesh cloth, bone cloth, and bone spring. Mesh cloth is if you have a skirt, you can give it cloth physics and then weight paint it within Unity. But what we're going to use, which is going to be the easiest and most relatable to most people who are used to working with Fizzbones, is going to be bone cloth. So in here, you're going to have bone cloth and you're going to have your root bones. So we're gonna go through Okami until we find where her hair root is. So I have a bangs root here. And rather than throwing the bangs root in here, this is gonna be the one issue that a lot of VRChat models have. You don't want to put the root in it. You're going to want to put each individual bang in it. Now you could put the root in it, but I'll show you what happens when you do. So if we add bangs root into the root bones, you'll see that the hair now, if we hit play, let's see. So if we hit play here, you can see how all the hair is falling and stuff, right? So this is what happens when you put it on the root. Now, the way to avoid that, if you want to use the root, is you're able to go into the editing option, and this is where you get to kind of put down what bones in your hair are moving, right? So out of all of these, we would have to go and hit each individual root of their bones and hit them in a fixed location and paint them red, right? But to get around this, to make it a lot easier, we're gonna lock it on the empty so that it stays in our inspector. And we are going to delete bangs root. And what we're going to do is hit select, and we're gonna select all of these and drag them into here. Now that we've imported it with just the roots of those bones selected, if we hit play now, you'll see that our hair is staying where the beginning root is. If we rotate it around, you can see the hair is all moving, whatever. And this is where you can start playing around with the settings. So MagicaCloth is a little bit more complicated than Fizzbones, but it gives you a lot of options and also doesn't come with some feature comforts. So for instance, a model might not have the correct movement because with these models, you do want to export them with leaf bones out of Blender. So if your avatar doesn't already have end bones, you should probably have those set up prior to doing this. And the nice thing about this is that now that we have this within our Warudo Unity package, you can just import the FBX into Blender and then export it back over the original, and you shouldn't have too many issues outside of like if you've overly adjusted your armature, right? But with this though, you can adjust it. There's also presets built into this, so if I wanted to, we can do front hair. So I already have a front hair option here, and if we hit play, we can see what that looks like. And you can see that the front hair option actually did a pretty fine enough job at making our hair look nice and flowy, right? And you would do the same thing with the setting up colliders and whatnot. So for the head, you'd want to add a head collider to prevent your hair from going through it. But again, the nice thing about all this is once you make these changes, you can just go back to the Okami root and hit build Warudo mod. And now you never have to reset up that character file again, and it should be just rinse and repeat. You can keep adding more and more physics and etc. to your model, make edits to the FBX, and you can export it just like you would as if you were building your model for VRChat. So you never have to go through the complicated character mod setup ever again with High's Denormalize. So that should be the quick and dirty way of getting your VRChat model ported over to Warudo without too many extra steps. I know this isn't like a one-for-one, you take your VRChat model that's within your VRChat project and export it into Warudo, similar to something like Warudo Exporter, but this allows you to better fine-tune your export and not just automate a lot of it. I know there's some issues still with translating Fizzbones over to dynamic bones again, and honestly, as somebody who uses MagicaCloth for all of their physics on any of their avatars, including for other professionals, it's definitely the better way of going, and I think going through the effort of that manual process will deliver a significantly better VTubing experience for you and your viewers. If you guys want to see any other kind of tutorials that I can make and throw together real quick, let me know, and I hope this helped. Thank you guys, appreciate it.